of this school, and it's the school's history. It's kind of appropriate for what kind of school it is. When Dr. McIntyre came to Knox County 5.5 years ago, he came in saying, this system needs a standalone magnet technology high school. And at the time, I was in central office as the science supervisor, so it made sense that I would be a person that he turned to and said, okay, do a feasibility study and let's figure out what this might look like. So we were 12 months into the planning and that process when Tennessee won Race to the Top. And our standalone magnet technology became a standalone magnet STEM. And as we went through the development process, we had focus groups with the local Chamber of Commerce and STEM professionals and businesses. They pulled together for us, parents, students, teachers. It was really a collaborative process. And I have to tell a small story on myself. So we're in the phase of, okay, so now the thing's designed, we're ready to go, it's time to hire a principal. I had famously said, I have absolutely no desire to be a principal, I have no discipline myself, I could never run a school. And as we were going through the interview process, Dr. McIntyre now calls me this, and I know he means it in the kindest way, but he calls me the Dick Cheney of the system, because after about the 15th or 16th interview with the committee, they would just finish and look at me and say, well, what was wrong with that one? And finally he said, well, why don't you just do it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. So that's how I wound up, and now I wouldn't trade it for the world. I tell folks that my last day of work was April 19th, 2010, because that was the day I got appointed to lead this school. And it has been an educator's dream. It's literally the school that when I was in the classroom, I would say, you know, one day if I ever got to run things, this is how I would do it. And I've gotten to play with it that way. And I'm surrounded, I have the most phenomenal faculty in the state. I know every one of you in your communities have outstanding school systems, but I got all the best teachers here, sorry. And one of the things that characterizes the school is that whole standalone magnet piece. So we don't have a zone at all. If you live within the boundaries of Knox County, you're eligible to come here. And students apply. The application is where do you live, where are you zoned for, why do you want to come to STEM. The only reason we ask them why they want to come here is to try to have a modicum of assurance that mom and dad aren't filling out the application for the child. And even then, we have a few that have, I know that's what happened. But for the most part, like 99.98% of the kids want to be here, and that makes a big difference. So we draw by a lottery system. There's absolutely no weight whatsoever. There's no way to get ahead. It's pure luck to be drawn to get here. So we take all comers. We have students, according to the Gates McGinnity reading test that is administered at the beginning of the freshman year. We have students from, we have one that's reading at a 3rd grade level. When he entered here as a freshman 2 years ago, all the way, more than 50% of our students actually are reading at post-secondary level when they get here, because that's why they're drawn to STEM, that rigor and the science and math interaction and everything. But we have the whole breadth. And I'm glad you guys will be here. I hope that you all take the opportunity to take a short tour with us. Our students, and I say this with love in my heart, we're the island of misfit toys. We proudly proclaim ourselves the Nerd Nation and wear that badge with honor. But it's an atmosphere where it's safe, and it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to think outside the box. And that's evidence from, well, I guess people would say that's evidence from the leadership on down to the classroom. But we literally, we question everything. Why do we do things this way in schools? And if it doesn't make sense, let's not. So starting with time. So one of the things that we did first off was we wanted to try to keep this school as budget neutral as possible, because, I mean, you guys know how communities are, and everybody's like, you know, you're taking another piece out of the pie to give to this new school. So we tried to be have as little impact as possible on the other schools. And to do that, one of the things that we did was our buses are contracted by the day, not by the run. So they get paid mileage, but not, you know, if you got 3 runs, you get more. It's just a little bit more mileage. So instead of adding more buses, they added a third run in the morning for our school buses in Knox County, so our students don't start school until 9:30. So our day runs from 9:30 to 4:30, which as a former high school teacher, I know it is just, it's heaven. I love it. You have no idea. If you knew me better, you would know what a miracle it is that I'm standing here incoherent at this hour. Because I am not a morning person. Now,
well, we're not sure you're coherent.
Well, that's true. That's yet to be seen.
We do know you're standing.
There you go. That is yet to be seen. Point well taken.
Don's not sure he's coherent.
I'm sure I'm not.
You have fit in so well on the faculty here. Yeah, that's actually true. But it works so well with the students' biorhythms. I mean, our kids are generally awake the first period, and not being facetious, most high school principals and teachers will tell you that's not always the case. Now, with that said, our students, now that we're just 3 years old, so we're still toddlers, we're still learning to walk in many senses of the word. But we have our first class that are old enough to take advantage of dual credit opportunities with Pelican State and UT. So they asked us for early classes. So we didn't schedule and then say, okay, here's when you can take classes. The students came to us and said, we want to have our day done by noon so we can load up our classes in the college in the afternoon. Could we get a couple teachers maybe to come early to teach us? Are you kidding? Yeah. So there's very little absenteeism in those classes, and it's a wonderful thing. That kind of embodies the school. We approach everything with the engineering design process. We teach students that is how to approach any problem in life, no matter what. And when people ask us what makes us a STEM school, it's not that we have more science, technology, engineering, and math than any other school. It's the fact that those habits that STEM professionals use daily are infused throughout every course. Our English courses are explicit when they talk about, they're doing literary analysis, and they talk about point of view statements, and they emphasize, now apply your critical thinking and empathize and get into this person's head. Why did they write this? Why did they have the character do this? So they try to show students how it's not just the rocket scientists that use the STEM habits. And so in that way, while certainly an explicit goal is to encourage and have a crop of young STEM professionals come from this school, for me, more importantly, is to have a crop of STEM literate citizens who will vote and pay taxes to come out of this school. And we're hoping that what we do, and we've already seen it, start to infiltrate and inoculate the schools around us, even school systems around us, are adopting our STEM curriculum and adopting other things about the ways that we do things. We're excited about that. So we take everybody who comes through the door, and we have this wide breadth. And because we emphasize, yes, I'm a little bit of a renegade in that I will push back when we get directives and say, that's not what's best for our students, this is what we're going to do instead. Most of the time that works, not always. But because of that, you know, we do all the testing everybody else does, but it's not a big deal because it's secondary. Our students demonstrate mastery through performance and problem-based learning. So they're consistently, in every class, they're always showing us what they know and telling us how they know it by authentic tasks and presentations and products. And you'll see every space that's available around you. Dry erase boards are just like gold around here. And the other thing with the technology, our students don't get issued textbooks, they all get issued iPads. And I know I see Mr. Boyd there. And can I embarrass you and thank you for your generosity? Yeah. Too late, I'm going to anyway. So thanks to Mr. Boyd over there, as a concerned citizen, he, in our design stages, was like, okay, so I've heard that you know, this technology, in the hands of the students is doing great things other places. Here's money to get started, see what you can do. And with that, that's how we became an iPad school, because you actually did. Either somebody put words in your mouth when they told us, or he specifically said we want to try the iPad. So we were debating what device we put. And now I would not do it any other way. If I was starting another school, I would do the same thing with the iPads. They just, I won't get on that boat, but they're great for a number of reasons. And when you walk around in a little while, you'll see the kids, their appendages. They don't go anywhere without those iPads. But the nice thing is when they're in class, the teachers are really good about, our mantra is technology is a tool. And if what you're doing calls for technology, the tool's right there in your hand, go for it. But when the task calls for something else, we remind the kids that iPad can't think for you. And so our teachers constantly challenge them. And that's what I always keep in front of the teachers is how are you challenging them to go beyond what they can find on Google and Wikipedia. People ask us all the time, well, so if they take tests on the iPad, how do you make sure they don't cheat? And I'm like, if the teachers have created a test that they can look up the answer on Google, it's not a valid test. It needs to be, because, we know in pretty much any profession nowadays, if I need to know something, I'll just Google it or find somebody smarter that knows it already. The question isn't, do I know the information? The question is, do I know what to do with the information once I have it? And that's what we emphasize here. So when you go around and have the opportunity to talk to our students, they're very articulate. Even the ones, I have to brag on one of our students, one of the projects they do in their STEM class is bridge building. You can see some of the prototypes up there on the ledge. And they first learn how to do it on, I forget the software package that they use, but they do it on the software and then test it out. And we had a group come through here one day as a class was in the library working on their bridges online, on the software. And this student who was one of ours that came in reading about 5th or 6th grade, but tremendous problem solver. He's one of those kids that likes to tinker. And he and his group had designed this thing, and he happened to be sitting in front of the keyboard. And Dr. Tom Mason, the head of Oak Ridge National Lab, was part of the group coming through. And so he just asked the student, so what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And the student started explaining the software in detail. And this is a kid who, if we had put him in front of the computer and said, read this, would have just sat there until it was time to go. Because when he gets long passages in front of him, he gives up and says, I can't read. But he designed a bridge that, according to the architects, would have been the most feasible one designed to use. So those are the kinds of success stories that we try to show students. You're smart in different ways, and we got to shore up the ways that you're not quite meeting the bar, because you do have to have a minimum there. But that's what we emphasize. And because we're a small school, we have classes of 150 per grade level. We're able to truly give personalized learning. The iPads, students are all issued their own email accounts, so they have like a professional email account. That's how they submit work to their teachers. That's how they access their teachers. So we don't worry about, are they on Facebook with teachers, are they tweeting with their teachers? It's all archived through their email. And that's the way the professional world works as well. Yes?
I think the only chance we're going to get to take a look might be now. Could
yeah?
we do that? Could we
Yes.
take about 10 minutes? Does that really mess you up?
Let me grab the radio and see.
See if that's doable?
Yeah, I had the agenda backwards, and I have
Okay.
students coming to tour you.
Because I think there's not going to be a chance for a tour, so unless we do it now.
Over in the main building, and grab me some students and come over and head out for a tour with the students. And somebody acknowledge that you got it. Thanks, Brad, kids on your way.
Sorry to do that.
No, it's like I said, we're flexible.
Okay.
So a couple of things, and that actually is, it doesn't matter who they grab, it's gonna be somebody that I'm proud of representing. I'm confident in that. As you're going through the building, one of the things you'll notice is, okay, so we're in this beautiful, historic, and inspirational place. Our kids love the fact that they're in a 108-year-old train station, and they're in the most high-tech school in the system. One of the things that you're going to see as you go through our commons area, they're installing, they're right in the setup phase right now. We have a distributed visualization wall, and it's modeled after the Everest room at Oak Ridge National Labs. And it's capable of live feeds from several different areas, and you can either tile them all into one picture or have the individual feed. And we're going to be using it for a number of things, I'm sure, but one thing we're excited about is we're spearheading an effort to put an experiment from a group of Knox County students onto the International Space Station in September. And and that kicks off in February. And as soon as we get going into the project, we'll have one of the feeds will be directly from the space station, 24 hours a day. So they'll be seeing whatever the station's sending back to NASA all the time. And we're just excited for our kids. We try to get them into, quote, real science as early and often as possible. And just a couple of things as you're going around, you'll notice that when we did renovation, we left things as much the way they were as we could. Now I say that in this building, this floor is exactly the way it was. Those were all offices down through there. All we did here was we ripped out all the walls to make this big open space. Below us was the butcher shop restaurant, so it's obviously been changed quite a bit. But when you go into the station building, it's exactly, or well, close to what it was at the train station. If you were here during the World's Fair, you're gonna say, no, it didn't look like this. Well, they did more changes to it than we did. We changed it back to what it was when it was a train station. And we did that trying to keep in mind that the enhancement is what the kids bring to it. It's not the fancy things we put in front of them. We did the iPad and we put phenomenal teachers. That's it. Everything else is supplied by the kids. So you won't see some of the typical things you see in schools as you go through our classrooms because they're carrying it in their hands. And in their hands. There's a display, you walked through it on your way in here, that is an interpretation of the site. The Historic Preservation Office of Tennessee asked us to do that. Our students, our first year, we had a committee of students that worked with a graphic artist. They did all the research, they put it all together. He showed them how to make it pretty and got it mounted there, so I encourage you to stop and look at that. Well, as you're touring around, they'll tell you the other two things are every student here takes Latin for 2 years. It's the only language we offer. If they want other languages, they can do it through dual credit with one of the universities. Latin is the best language to train the brain to think deductively. We're about as thinking. And then you'll hear the other things as we go around. So we'll
Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes?
Yep, we'll